Hello, and I think we are live. And welcome to the MintGox podcast. It's a podcast where we talk about Bitcoin, gaming, and Lightning, and get our guest on to do a. Oh, I've got a little bit of echo here. Bear with me, folks. Yep, and we get our guest to do a lap of Satoshi's village, but more on that later. Today we have a very special guest on, and I know I always say this, but I'm very excited to have him on. His name is Ryan Mullins of Aglet, and I'm going to have him on just a little bit in a little bit. But basically, to give some background, Aglet is a kind of Pokemon Go style kind of sneaker app. It's like think of Pokemon Go for sneakers, and we're actually doing a collaboration with them, with MintGox and Zebedee, where we have some Bitcoin rally tournaments that Aglet are sponsoring, and we are also doing Aglet are also going to update their application to do kind of like a special Satoshi giveaway. We'll talk more on that later once we get Ryan on the show. But just before I start, I just want to mention sponsors of the show. So the first sponsor is can I make that screen a bit bigger? There we go. The first sponsor is Zebedee, and Zebedee have launched their new Infuse application, which lets you play CSGO for Bitcoin. It's a great application. So obviously CSGO is a major popular AAA game with something around 20 million monthly active users. And now anybody can play CSGO for Bitcoin. You basically, how it works is you get a Lightning wallet. We recommend the Zebedee wallet. You download the Infuse application. Then you pay something like 500 sats or 1,000 sats. It's a very small amount of Bitcoin to enter. And then all the participants who have paid to enter, that's the prize pool. And you basically compete. And the person who basically has the most kills or the best score gets a larger percent of Bitcoin. So all these servers are live now. You can go to zebedee.io/infuse and you can get started. And this is with the CSGO. CSGO is free to download from the Steam store. So we haven't altered CSGO in any way. So yeah, play CSGO for Bitcoin now with Zebedee Infuse product. And we also have this Sunday is MintGox 12. So this is a MintGox podcast, obviously, but the actual MintGox main event, which is basically like a 2-hour, 3-hour kind of Bitcoin esports show, where you can jump on there. We have a bunch of different games to play for Bitcoin. We have Saratobi, we have Turbo 84, we have Bitcoin. Oh, we've got so many, I can't scroll through them all. We've got Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, which is a kind of an original Bitcoin first-person shooter. We have a CS:GO tournament. Basically, we all get together for 3 hours and we all basically play a bunch of games for Bitcoin. And we have, I believe, 10,000 Satoshis to give away. So make sure to RSVP for that. And that is MintGox 12, and that is this Sunday at 2 p.m. EST. Anyway, that's thanks for that for our sponsors. Let's get Ryan on the show. So let me just add him to the call. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, man. How you doing?
Hey, great. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah.
Excited to be on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We're really excited to have you. So I gave a brief kind of background to you just as I opened the show, but for people who haven't heard of you, can you just, I suppose, start with like, who are you? How did you get to be on this podcast?
Right. Well, so I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of a company that's called On Life. It is also called Aglet. That's like the product that we've made, but the company's called On Life. So we launched this product about a year ago almost now. So that's pretty crazy. And before that, this is my third startup. So I've started 2 other companies, mostly in kind of self-publishing and media spaces. And then after that, I kind of was a little bit disenchanted with kind of the startup world, especially the media space for kind of self-publishing. And I went to Adidas, and I was kind of came in there as like almost like an entrepreneur in residence type position. But the position was later called Director of Future Trends. And I'm kind of still trying to figure out what that means. But what I was doing there was helping the business try to start businesses, within the business. So kind of taking that Amazon model of innovation where you are looking at sort of market opportunities and then trying to start little startups within the company. And then I ended up leaving there and raising some funds to build Aglet. So the name of the company starting out was actually sneaker crypt. And so there's kind of this whole NFT craze going on now, but like basically when we started playing CryptoKitties, we were kind of like, damn, we should do this for sneakers. What if you could take virtual sneakers and put them on the blockchain? And so we were going to build it on Ethereum. It was a whole NFT play. But then there was kind of that, it just seemed like any successful or semi-successful application that you would run on the Ethereum blockchain kind of would not be so great in terms of the actual experience. And so we kind of felt that, and then we were just kind of looking at at NFTs in general, and like I'm bullish on it long term, but the utility of these things is like near zero. I'm sure we'll get into the sneakers and stuff like that, but it's kind of what sneakers have become a little bit, where it's just kind of this, it's like this derivatives market where the culture and kind of the soul of this thing that a lot of us are passionate about has become merely about flipping and reselling on a secondary market. So anyway, so like the background of that is kind of funny, just that it was called Sneaker Crypt. We ended up changing the name to Aglet and sort of going away from blockchains and crypto. We're not opposed to sort of returning to it later, but basically what it is like you said, right now in this kind of initial beta state, it's like a Pokemon Go experience, meaning that we've taken that location-based gameplay and location-based mechanisms. And as you're walking around and moving around in the world, we convert your steps and your activity into this game currency that's called Aglet. And then once you build up more and more Aglet, the more active you are, we have the Aglet sneaker shop, which is we have all these virtual sneakers in the game where you can go in and basically you're collecting all of these sneakers that today, if you're a younger kid, you can't afford the actual real sneakers, nor can you even get them because they're so hard to get now. So it's sort of this fantasy space of where, what if you could build all this capital in this game, being active in real life, and then sort of being able to collect all of your kind of dream sneakers and building up this fantasy collection.
And I think
So that's, yeah.
I was going to say
Go ahead, sorry.
Ironic thing is, if you built it with NFTs, the kids still wouldn't be able to afford the digital sneakers, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's the other part of it.
Like $150 to send them or receive them or something.
Right. So, but there's like multiple phases to what we're doing. So, it is right now this kind of Pokemon Go meets like a virtual Foot Locker, but in where we're really taking this is like it's basically like a social commerce engine, because my as I said, the name of the company is On Life, and what that means for us is that you no longer live online or offline. You just live on life. There's no distinction between the two. Now they've just converged, and there's this whole new convergent space where we can create completely new kinds of experiences. So while it is right now, movement, a step to collect kind of game loop, the idea is actually to create sort of portals or channels to the physical products. So if you're a brand like Adidas or New Balance or Nike, you could actually put like virtual pop-up shops in the map in the game. So there's a map in the game, and as you're walking around, your sneakers get dirty in the game, like that you start to see the sneaker get dirty, and then you have to go to these stations that are around you, these geofenced stations, and then when you go there, you can check in. So if you're a brand or an independent designer building up your own sneaker brand, you can start putting these locations around the players, and when you go there, it's unlocking an actual physical commerce opportunity, right? So it's not just a virtual sneaker game. We also have the ability to kind of go into the physical products as well, right? And that's the kind of a location-based commerce platform for virtual and physical goods. And then the next phase is, I want to know who the next great sneaker designer is. And when we have avatars, in a couple months, you'll have hoodies and jeans, and actually have virtual fashion in the game. And you can design your own brand, design your own company in this game that our players can buy and collect, right? And so that's what, for me, is like the next big designer, the next big brand is going to first exist in this virtual world. It'll exist in a game, then it will be manufactured. So we released our own brand in the game called Aglet, the Aglet 1, and we're making that. We're releasing it in April. So we've literally gone from virtual to a physical product.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think we've already kind of touched on so many interesting topics there that we could kind of take and run away with. But
Yeah.
just on your last point, I think that's probably, I guess, for any young designer who wants to design a sneaker, I don't like. There's not really many options. I don't even know how you become a professional sneaker designer. But I
Mhm.
can imagine if there's like an application that's like somewhat, there's a community around that, and you basically just it's as easy as uploading an image to the app, and
Yeah.
I think that's quite powerful and quite exciting.
No, it is because I mean, I liken it to kind of maybe our generation. YouTube was for me kind of probably the most revolutionary product because um, I wasn't really conversant in these debates and stuff, but like the kind of the incumbent media companies asking questions like, hey, who's going to watch this digital content? Okay, that's great, but who's going to make all this digital content, right? Like, and if it's going to be consumers and people making, nobody wants to watch media from amateurs, which obviously turned out to be, wildly false. So, um,
That's all I watch
uh,
now, really.
yeah, exactly. And so I see something similar happening where, like Justin Bieber, for example, started as kind of this little kid in Canada, but we saw him as an avatar, like on the screen. We saw him digitally. Then, based on him building his brand up and being discovered, he becomes a pop star in reality. And so, the cost of entry to start creating your own media is so much lower than going about it the traditional route. And that's kind of what we're thinking as well here is that the cost of entry to build your own fashion brand, to build your own sneaker brand, or even getting a job as a sneaker designer at Adidas or New Balance or Nike is like crazy high. So how do you sort of, make that cost of entry lower and something like YouTube? And so there's obviously a lot more to being a sneaker designer than just illustrating,
Sure.
but it's a start nonetheless, right? It's a start to like start building up a brand and submitting designs and building an audience. And you can make money on it as well because we have Gold Aglet, which is sort of like our V-Bucks, where people are buying. We have players that have already spent $20,000 in the game buying and collecting these virtual sneakers. So um, that's kind of the play there is viewing. I know we'll get into this later, but viewing for us the metaverse is not like only hanging out and having the persistent kind of real time properties that we all know of what a metaverse would have to have only in a virtual world. We sort of look at it more as also the physical world out there and this sort of layer that exists on top of it, this kind of this like virtual dimension that will sit on top of that, that's accessible by means of your phone or probably these things.
Yeah, I can kind of imagine that, in a way, people will wear their digital sneakers more than they wear. I guess sneakerheads don't actually wear their physical sneakers, right? You wouldn't dare take them out of the box. But in a way,
Yeah.
like people might say that, well, a digital sneaker has no utility. But then you could argue the fact that you can wear them because, they're digital, they don't really degrade, means they have more utility than a physical sneaker. And the fact that people spend more and more of their lives online, it's
Yeah.
kind of, I think, an interesting kind of flip there, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was the play there, was that what we wanted to prove this year was that one, people would like be active physically. And our players are like 13 to, 25 years old. So like, which aren't the most active, it's not the most active generation. Um, so will younger kids actually go outside, physically walk around to earn this in-game currency? Like literally, they're sweating. Our players have taken over 10 billion
So
steps.
it's you earn the currency based on your steps. Then
Yeah,
it's like
it's sort of like it's almost like an activity
odometer.
tracker. Like you're
Got you.
walking, and we're counting your steps, and then so the more physically active you are in real life, the more you're earning. And every sneaker in the game has kind of its own earn rate. And obviously, there's like higher level, like Holy Grail level sneakers. If you can get
Hmm.
those, and you're wearing those in the game as you walk, you're going to earn like an insane amount of aglet, which is going to give you then access to buy and collect more of the sneakers, right? And so if you're wearing a more like entry level general release type sneaker, then you're going to earn maybe 30 or 40 aglet every 1,000 steps that you take. So we're
Got you.
actually part of our brand is encouraging kind of the physical and mental health of movement.
Yeah.
And later there will be other ways to earn Aglet, but right now it's sort of based on that physical steps to earn and then to collect.
Okay, I just take a step back because I'm actually just interested in the term sneakerhead. So I'm not a sneakerhead, but I've kind of been aware that people do collect sneakers, and I think
Mm,
everybody has their thing. So I like, for example, guitars, right?
yeah.
I would just love to collect guitars, and if there was like a kind of Aglet version for guitars, I'd probably get it and try and get like the 58 Les Pauls and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Can you talk about like for somebody who is a bit ignorant of this, like what is a sneakerhead? Like what's the appeal? Or I don't know. I'm assuming
Mm.
you're a massive sneakerhead.
I
Same.
am. I'm not. I won't embarrass myself here by revealing how many I actually have in my collection. But yeah, I've been collecting since I was 10 years old. It's something that I've been into. I think I think most people who qualify or call themselves sneakerheads have a very similar kind of Marvel, origin story of like where it started. And it's typically Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Um,
I
and
do
so
remember. So sorry to interrupt. I do remember when I was young at school, like there was an appeal behind those shoes, and if
mm,
you bought them, you thought in the schoolyard you'd play basketball better or something, right? So I kind of get that actually.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah,
Air
exactly.
Jordans,
And
right?
that's a good that's a good point. It's sort of this, it's not like footwear and kind of, let's say, magic or some kind of a like fantasy. That's not new, right? You've got Wizard of
Mm,
Oz,
yeah.
the ruby slippers. You've got Puss in Boots. You've got Cinderella's glass slippers. We've got a sneaker in the game that's the sandal that Jesus wore when he walked on the water. So it's like, history has
Got you.
always associated some kind of a magic or special sort of superhuman abilities that are associated with footwear in sort of folklore and fantasy and mythology.
That's quite interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so that kind of happened with Michael Jordan because he was this transcendent athlete that no one had ever seen him, do. No one had ever seen a basketball player do these kind of insane, transcendent, aerial, uh, um, like,
Yeah.
I mean, just
Slam dunks.
acrobatic.
So
The
yeah.
guy was, yeah, it was crazy just how good he was. He's the greatest ever, maybe the greatest athlete of all time. And so what Nike did a good job of was giving him his own signature shoe. There had been signature shoes before that. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson had one, and I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, blah blah. But Jordan they just took it to this next level. And then there's a great commercial with Spike Lee. It's got to be the shoes. And what they did a great job of there was like, it's got to be the shoes. So you associate high performance on a basketball court with wearing and owning the sneaker. And so I make a distinction, and we make a distinction on the team between a shoe and a sneaker. A shoe is like the physical stuff. It's like there's a shoe company called Skechers, and no shade on Skechers, but like that's a shoe. It's a shoe. Its utility is you wear it, and you wear it around or whatever. But then there's a sneaker, and a sneaker is sort of when a shoe, um, sort of almost is skinned in meaning and culture and significance and like cultural memory and certain moments and events that a culture cares about, and you associate it with that, right? So, like you said, you collecting a guitar, there's a guitar and then there's a Les Paul. You know, there's a Ford, but then there's a Tesla. And there aren't many people creating,
Hmm.
user generated content on YouTube about Fords. Um,
I guess
Maybe
it,
old
yeah, yeah,
Mustangs,
yeah.
like old Mustangs, sure. But
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 not
there's
like
some,
the functional family car kind
yeah,
of thing. Yeah, not that.
right. And then
Yeah.
so, and then you got like Samsung. Like Samsung has also really great products, but there aren't many people like lining up for days, to get those products or following like every single word and, patent and all this other. So there's a difference between certain products and then like normal products. And that's what a sneakers are. Sneakers are these things that are now just, they're collectibles, and they're because they're part of a certain culture that's called streetwear and sports. And now they've become things where they're sort of like billboards almost. You've got all these crazy collaborations that are happening with certain IP, like Nintendo and Puma just did something really cool. there's a Satoshi. I think there's a sneaker brand called Satoshi. So it's now just become like one of the core nodes of global youth culture. And I attribute a lot of that just to Michael Jordan and how his personality and his abilities as a basketball player, but also the marketing machine that is Nike, building up this desirability for this object. And then you get into the really crazy stuff, which is like now it's gone to a point where these are stores of value. You have StockX, you have GOAT, as two secondary marketplaces where if you buy a sneaker for $150 or $200 from Adidas or Nike, and then you can flip that sneaker, an hour later and sell it for 3 to 4 times what you paid for it. So it's just a scarcity model. And it's very similar to Bitcoin. These are now assets. You don't buy a sneaker now, you reallocate an asset.
Same with guitars, right?
Same with
some of these
guitars,
guitars,
exactly. Yeah.
like some of the guitars, like not even famous guitars that had obviously you have ones like Jimi Hendrix's guitar, but just guitars that had no owner could be like $200,000-$300,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a collectible now, and it's gone from all the kind of the culture and people wearing the sneakers. Actually, there are sneakerheads that do wear them, but for the most part, there are a lot of sneakerheads that have these really crazy collections. They keep them dead stock, which is, they keep them in the box. They don't wear them. But it's no different than, kind of a Beanie Baby thing, or like I collect Funko dolls. I collect Pez dispensers. I have a sneaker collection. I've got a crazy book collection. I collect, vinyls from some of my favorite artists. So I think we all collect, like you said. And then it's about, why are certain objects collectible?
Yeah.
And then, for sneakers, it's for the reasons that I
I guess I know some people do collect like jeans and t-shirts, but sneakers just seems to be something else. So maybe it goes back to that mythology of footwear. I think Nike itself is it based off Hermes, or is it Greek god or something, right?
It's also based on
Greek mythology.
It's also mythological, how they how they've described it. And I think it's like one of my biggest passions is science fiction. And I think that what all great companies do is they realize that, like, they're not the hero of the story. They supply a space and they supply products, but the hero of the brand story is the consumer. And if you can somehow create that feeling that by using these products you can kind of transcend where you started, you can transcend that and become something else. And that's basically the Nike playbook, is what they do such a great job of, is creating this media that you see and project to yourself, like, hey, I can do that. Like, everybody is an athlete, and if you wear these products, it gets you there. It's sort of the whether that's BS. Obviously it's not totally true, but like that's the mythology that they have created, and that's I think what all great products do
to some extent. A sneaker is a canvas, right? And then you have kind of art on top of that, right? And art, it is both BS and it is both not BS, right? It's not physical, but it has value to people.
And it's all, I mean, it's no different than really just anything in human civilization and culture, right? It's like, I could walk down the street and in LA and see, the Forum, which, if you don't know what that is, it's like, it just looks like an old ugly building. But if I would say the Forum to somebody, it is an old ugly building. Sure. It's where the Lakers used to play. They don't play there anymore. Now they play at the Staples Center. But if you look at that building and you don't know, you would see just physical stuff. But if you're a Lakers fan, what you would probably see in your head is like Magic Johnson and, Showtime Lakers and James Worthy and Kareem and all that, Kurt Rambis and a lot of championships. So it's these kind of this it's like semantic meaning or this memory that sort of accompanies certain objects. And that's what people see. Like when I see a Jordan 11, I see me wearing them as a kid. That's literally what I see. In my head, I'm thinking of specific moments when I had that on.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of when Jordan wore that, when they went 72-10. And so those are the things that why these things are so desirable,
That's
other
quite,
than the obvious scarcity.
yeah, that's quite interesting because a very similar thing to guitars, right? When you see guitar, you see Jimi Hendrix, or you see Jimmy Page, right, or something.
Yeah,
But I guess
or Stevie Ray Vaughan's kind of old,
yeah,
beat up, Stratocaster.
yeah. My wife just sees expensive pieces of wood and she doesn't know why
Yeah,
I buy them.
too too many pieces of wood. Have you gotten to the point yet where you like, if you do order a guitar, you like schedule the delivery when she's not going to be there?
I know my
Yeah.
wife doesn't watch this
Hope she's
podcast.
not listening. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
No,
Good. Yeah.
but
Sorry about that. Yeah.
I'll make a confession. I got my dream guitar. Well, not my dream guitar, but up there, right? And
Yeah.
I bought it as myself as a present for Christmas, but I couldn't justify the cost to my wife, so I told her
Mm.
I entered an Eric Clapton giveeway
Oh,
competition,
nice.
and I won.
I've I've done that one. I've done that one many times. Like, oh, hey, did you get some new got some new sneakers?
Yeah, but
Uh, no, no. Actually, it's with Aglet. It's this brand really liked what we're doing, and they sent them to us for free. And okay.
see, your wife doesn't watch your podcast either.
No, no,
Yeah, but
she won't be watching.
the thing is like maybe I'm justifying it to myself, but it's the same thing I imagine with sneakers. You haven't really lost money because they only ever hold their value really. Like my guitar, it's only ever going to get older, and like antiques and assets, and in a way,
Mm.
if you did need the money, you could always get it back, right? So it don't-
Um, that's a good question. So this is actually weird. So it definitely depends, right? So as I was saying, like in Aglet, we have different tiers.
okay,
So there's like tier 0, which is the holy grail. Those are like the one of ones, the one of five. Those are the most desirable sneakers, like
so
in
could you
all of.
name an example sneaker just for like ignorant, like
Yeah,
what
sure.
would be
So there's
like
like
the holy grail of sneakers?
well, there's a couple of them. So one would
Jesus'
be
sandals in real life.
obviously the sandals he wore during the
Sure.
resurrection
Uh,
would be up there.
yeah, they're
But
probably
like so
decomposed or rotten if
a little bit, yeah. So like in our
Yeah.
game, there's a Jesus sandal, and then we've got like we've got some cultural moments where it's like we have the 992 New Balance that Steve Jobs wore on stage when he announced the iPhone. We've got
That's
the
interesting. That's not
Adidas.
sports. That's not sports. That's even quite interesting. It doesn't even have to be
Yeah,
sports related.
he was a big yeah, no, he was a big fan of New Balance. We had Michael Jackson's Moonwalk loafers. So it's like all you can basically find typically like
Mm.
any culturally significant moments, someone's likely wearing footwear. So we've
Mm.
got like Elvis boots. We've got but anyway, but like more serious, I guess more serious sneakers would be like the Yeezy, the Nike Air 2 Yeezy. It's called the Red October. That's probably one of the most desired sneakers of all time. It resells. I think it was reselling at one time for about $30,000. And
That's
then you've
called
got
the what? Sorry, the
it's called the Red October.
Red October.
Um, the Nike. It's a Nike. So it's when Kanye was with Nike. It was the second the Air Easy 2. So
I'm
that's the Red
gonna just
October.
screen share for our audience.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah. There
that
you
it?
go. There it is.
Yeah.
Yep,
Wow.
that's the Red October there. Yep. So and then actually, so at the top there in the middle, you can see on StockX, I think it is. You see that's the Michael J. Fox. Go to the left. No.
Oh, nope. That one.
No.
Oh,
Yeah. So
nope.
that's the Nike Air Mag. That's the self-lacing sneakers
Yeah, and Back Future 2.
from Back to the Future. So that's also a what's called a holy grail. If you click on that, that's probably like 20 grand,
Yeah, it
14K.
was
So
something
last
like
sell
that.
was about 10.
So
So there's a couple different ones.
Nike could
But
mass
anyway,
produce this if they wanted to, right? Is it just because they don't? Is it like how does?
yeah, it is this kind of scarcity model. So there's very, very few of that. I think the Red October, there's also, so that's the 2011 version. If you get one of the older, they did re-release that, but there are some that are like $30,000. So this is
Yeah.
always the big question, right? It's like, okay, if people are going to pay $500 or $1,000 for a sneaker on the secondary market, presumably they would pay the same amount of money if Adidas just released it for that amount or Nike just released it for that amount. Um, and for some reason that's just not how it works.
But
The
it's
brands
like
have tried that, and it's sort of this thing of you kind of if they would release it for 500, then it would be sold for 2,000. If they released it for 5,000, it would go for, 10,000. So like Dior partnered with Jordan and released a Jordan 1, and the sneaker I think was $2,000, and then it was reselling for 10,000. So no matter what price the brands put, it's going to always resell for for more. So I think of course the brands could get more margins if they raise the prices, but I think you start alienating. If you raise the prices too much, it becomes a little bit disgusting. So yeah, it's just a super interesting space. There's also just a lot of story. There's great technology in these footwear. It's the boost cushioning from Adidas, or just the Nike Air, the story behind it. Tinker Hatfield was a famous Nike designer that did the Jordan 3s up to probably the 12 or 13s, and he was an architect, and like the first that Air, the Nike Air that you could see, the Nike Air pack in the sneaker, that's a reference to the Pompidou
A kind of
building in
like
Paris
bubble
that
thing,
you
right?
can,
You mean?
yeah, the Nike Air bubble that you can see the air. And that was very controversial at Nike, that he was showing the inside of the sneaker, revealing the innards, so to speak. And that was an influence from his love of the Pompidou building in Paris, that sort of shows the
Oh, I
a
didn't
lot
know
of the
that.
infrastructure. Yeah, and so there's like these types of things, these little stories that are the inspiration and the influence behind design and a designer. And so, yeah, the love of sneakers is now enormous, and it's no longer really a niche. It's just kind of become a,
Yeah.
Everybody's wearing sneakers now. Like
Yeah, we
there's
have
like,
two sneakerheads at MintGox among the staff that.
okay, there we go. See,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So that's what we were about, and what really drove us to build this was, it's just got it's kind of just got so ridiculous that I'm really thinking of, where does this go? Where can sneakers go?
Well,
And what we're trying to do is say that a lot of talk like, are sneakers dead? Is streetwear dead? And we just think that that's not the question. The question is, where is the street now?
okay.
Like, it's in the street is, what is the streetwear? It's usually where cool and where culture comes out of. But now we think that the street is virtual. It's a virtual street. People hang out now in games. You build your identity. You learn how economies work. You build you build your social network. Your gameplay in a virtual world, because of Twitch, now has real life consequences for social capital in your, at school or whatever. So the street is now a virtual street. And so what we're in the early stages of building is something like what we call streetwear, which is like hardware, software, streetwear, WARE. It's like, how do you build the first kind of virtual streetwear brand, the first virtual streetwear sneaker? The first virtual sneaker.
Have you
You know what
seen
I mean?
any examples of games doing this? Because like nowadays, games you can customize your avatar and there are skins you can download. It's just
Yeah,
I'd imagine this would be something that like Nike or Adidas would
yeah.
jump on, right? Is that happening now, or is it not
Yeah,
happening the right way?
it's starting to kick off. I mean, I think 2 years ago, Nike released in Fortnite some Jordan skins. Even like on Bitmoji, you can find some Jordan products on Snapchat. Um, in a lot of the luxury brands are actually quite ahead of the game in terms of in comparison to like Nike and Adidas. So Louis Vuitton created for League of Legends like native apparel for the game. Gucci has done a number of things of putting products in games like Animal Crossing. When the pandemic really started to kind of take over the world, people were designing through creator codes their own like Bobby Hundreds hoodies, their own Louis Vuitton hoodies, and then uploading them in the game, so you could kind of rock the latest gear in Animal Crossing. So I think that this year is going to be an explosive year for virtual fashion in game worlds. And that's why we wanted to build a game first and not focus only on the assets. We wanted it to have utility. Actually, it's like oil or something, or
So what do you mean by not focus
gold.
only on the assets? You
Well,
mean
because earlier, if you think of CryptoKitties or
okay, yeah, you meant that kind of
Cypherpunk or
assets.
some of those assets where it's like, again,
There's no
it's
game
not throwing.
behind CryptoKitties.
Yeah, I'm not throwing shade on it. It's cool if you're making, like, I just saw somebody sold $1 million virtual piece of furniture or whatever. Like, good for you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But what is the utility of that? And it's not the lame thing of like, I can't sit on it, or I can't wear the sneaker. It's not that. It's how do you put that utility within a context, within a world that it does have utility. And that's why we wanted to create a game first and have the assets mean something in that space, so
That's
that if you are, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna gonna say that I'm a game developer, and a few other game developers have been a lot. There's been trying to kind of explore this space of, do like NFTs or tokens? Do they make sense in games, and what are people doing wrong, and
Mm,
what are people doing right? And one of the things I think you were alluding to that people are getting wrong is they just make a game and they make a token, and all the token is it's just rare because they've said they've only made like 10 of them, and there's no
yeah,
other extra gameplay or utility other than that, right? And like,
yeah,
not to kind of criticize the people, but CryptoKitties is a bit like that, right? It was just like,
yeah. And
and
I
it's
love that. I mean, shout out to those guys. I mean, Dapper Labs, amazing team, and they're killing it with the NBA Top Shop stuff they're doing now. So it's not about like hating on them or throwing shade at what they do. It's just like we wanted to do something a little bit different, which was like, again, it's why would you prefer this cat to that cat? Or you would breed a couple cats together and you get this, this one of the special cats, or a virtual, a piece of furniture, or there's like some crypto art out there. And it's like, what are you actually buying? Are you buying that because you're betting on the value going up? So then you're just buying a kind of a future. Or are you buying it because you really love the designer
mhm,
or of that, or the creator of that? So now you're not really buying the asset, you're purchasing support, or signaling your support
sure.
of that. And but what we wanted was like, I want an asset that, just like in certain games, you want a certain gun, or you want a certain power up or whatever. And like, the Bitcoin rally, like or Mario Kart, like you want a banana because you can, kind of obstruct and challenge some of the other players with it, or you want the power up so you can go faster. So how do you take the digital assets
In Aglet,
in and
they earn more Aglet as you walk,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
exactly. They earn more aglet, or there's little power ups. Like there's going to be portals in the game where, like, if I walk down the street and in the game I check in at that specific location, that like in the game it can transport me on the map to Los Angeles, and then now I'm in LA on the map, and I can access on the map, some of the stations that are there in LA. So just little stuff like this, where like the only way I can get through a portal in the game would be if I'm wearing a certain pair of sneakers.
I think you kind
You
of
know?
we're delving into the metaverse now, and I just wanted to ask
Mm.
about your name is not Enoch Root. It's Ryan
No, it's not.
Mullins. So, but
Yeah.
I think we can probably segue into the metaverse and Enoch Root. That so just to explain to people, could you say who is Enoch Root, or what is Enoch Root?
Yeah. Enoch Root is so one of my actually I guess my favorite fiction writer is Neil Stevenson. And that's where I first encountered the word and the concept of a metaverse, which
Did
was
he
in,
coin the
you know,
term?
he did, yeah. But so it's in the Snow Crash novel. He actually he obviously didn't coin the word avatar, but he did use avatar, and he kind of,
Popularized it, yeah.
I think like popularized it a little bit. It was certainly used in other contexts, but like metaverse, avatar. So the book was very prescient. Was very important to me. It's obvious that Ready Player One is also very influenced by it. And so Enoch Root is a character that's sort of like Elijah, or the wandering Jew, let's say, as a kind of concept, that he appears in sort of most of the important Neil Stevenson novels. So he's in um, he's in this book, which you should definitely read, and I'm sure probably some people on your team have read, but this book, Cryptonomicon. So he appears in that book, but then he also appears in this trilogy called the Baroque Cycle, which takes place in was I guess 16th century. So an Enoch Root meets Leibniz. He meets Isaac Newton in the
Is he a
book.
time traveler, or is he just like a?
Yeah,
Or is he
he's kind
just
of this weird character that he doesn't have a time. He's just sort of he just appears
got it? It's
everywhere. He's
like
sort of
a
like
almost like a wandering god or something. Yeah.
yeah, it's that concept
I
of
think like
the wandering
yeah.
Jew character that is sort of everywhere, and so it's like, and then there's like Enoch Root, and so so I'm extremely passionate about science fiction, and most and cypherpunk was very important to me, and cyberpunk literature, and so what I just started noticing in that cyberpunk genre was that most of the characters, their whole thing is that they can get sort of root on a system, or they can get like root on reality.
I mean, like a Neo Matrix type thing,
Yeah,
or yeah.
that's kind of a thing that like it's sort of this like even the characters within Cryptonomicon, it's basically that whole book is about like deciphering. And so most of my favorite characters in science fiction, whether it's like Ender's Game or Stranger in a Strange Land, it's like a lot of those characters are like they're root characters. They get root somehow. If you think of
Got you.
like Plato, like Socrates, and it's like Plato's whole thing of the forms. It's like how do you access the forms? And it's through this method, this kind of dialectical method that they came up with, and remembrance or whatever. That's like getting root. It's like how do you get root and to see the reality? And a lot of those characters do that. And so Enoch Root is kind of this character where he meets Alan Turing in Cryptonomicon. He's
Wow.
always meeting the most important characters in these fictional worlds and sort of taking the best from them. And then he's sort of this mysterious character. You don't really know what he's doing. Is he kind of like the architect in the Matrix where he's kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes and all that? So anyway, so that's what Enoch Root means. And
And he
then
appears in a bunch of different of the books,
yeah,
right? And so
yeah, he
he's
does. Cryptonomicon, he doesn't appear in Snow Crash, but it's the Baroque Cycle, and then he appears in Cryptonomicon, and then his new book, Neil Stephenson's new book, it's called Fall, Fall. He's also in that, and you get a little bit of his origins and stuff in that book. So yeah, so Stevenson was really popular. Is a very popular sort of science fiction writer. He was very important to me. That's where I first encountered the metaverse concept, and really since then I've been really wondering like, okay, what is this
yeah.
metaverse? Like, can you actually build something like this? And if you can, what's required? Like, what is the
Well,
stack of building a metaverse?
like what is the metaverse? And I guess lots of people have maybe seen the movie Ready Player One, and it kind of touches into that. But how would you kind of explain
Hmm.
the metaverse? Is it just like where is it? I guess your reality becomes online, and you live in an online world, or is it a bit more deep than that, or like
Hmm. Um,
you
it's a good
tend
question. I
to
mean, I think
imply that because like sorry, but to interrupt, but Ready Player One, he kind of jumps into the world, and that's his world. But you're kind of saying with your company, One Life, is that correct? Oh, On
uh,
Life, sorry,
um,
On
uh,
Life, yeah,
yeah.
On Life. There's kind of like it's like a hybrid between the two kind of merge.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, okay, so you mentioned the Matrix earlier, like our color, like our main color is purple. Um, and where that comes from is kind of going back to the first Matrix. Morpheus presents, obviously, everybody knows it, the red pill, the blue pill. And the whole movie is like the deck is stacked in favor of physical reality. So it's not like Neo is going to take the blue pill and like stay in the Matrix, right? So he
mhm.
obviously takes the red pill and he sees like the desert of the real, and it's physical reality. Um, and so what we thought about was, what if when Morpheus presents him with those two options, here, take this pill, which is physical reality, or this one, which is a virtual reality. What if Neo would have rejected the binary of like red or blue and just grabbed them both and took them both at the same time? So if you take red and blue, you get obviously violet, so you get a purple color. So that's the background of why we
Oh,
have
interesting.
purple, is that the on life concept is that what we see, the where we see the future of the internet going, the consumer internet in this next phase is a spatial internet. Is that everything so far has been very two-dimensional, it's all screen based. And what we see is obviously with augmented reality, I think NFTs can play a role here with, every big brand, big tech company now is going to be releasing something like this. There's also the
Like
VR glass, so we can
Apple
get into
Glass kind
that.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got Apple's going to release their glasses in probably 2022. You've
Google
got
might.
Samsung doing it. Google's definitely gonna, the
They've
whole
tried
glass
it.
hole.
Maybe
They tried it way
they're a
too
bit too
early.
early.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was, that was
Yeah,
just
it's like
bad. But and you got HoloLens. But I genuinely believe that's where we're going. And so if you're now walking around in physical reality with a pair of these glasses on, two lidar sensors here, the phone, just like the watch, early on, the phone was the computational power source of the phone, or of the watch. Same thing's going to happen here. You're going to have some glasses on, you got your phone, you've got your your AirPods or whatever ecosystem you're in, and you're walking in physical reality, and you're just able to access a dimension of stuff. It's here is a it's the like directions telling you where to go. Here I look at you, maybe hopefully in person, and I see some information about you. I could say, hey, what kind of tree is that, and I get overlaid information there. I could see you not wearing what you're wearing now, but I could see you wearing maybe those Red Octobers. I could see you wearing a new Louis Vuitton MintGox
I can imagine people
hoodie.
changing how
Or
their partner looks. Let's make
yeah,
them a little bit
exactly.
bigger.
Changing. Yeah. Exactly. So like I really think that
Yeah.
I think this is where it goes, and you'll now have in physical, like space time, you'll have virtual and physical objects. And so just like that conversation you and I had about YouTube, and the question of who's going to make all this content, the answer was us. I also think this is sort of like virtual labor. Who's going to create all those virtual objects that will kind of populate the world? And I think that this is where you'll see younger kids, just like now you have basic skills of creating content and stuff like
Mhm.
that. I think kids will now just learn basic skills of creating in Unity and Unreal. And they're going to be creating virtual objects that we will see out in reality. So my version of the metaverse is that, and they're not mutually exclusive, but what I'm focusing on is this other side of why you take the purple pill, is that it's physical and virtual reality sort of merged into one. So you're not escaping physical reality like in the Oasis. It's this doomsday
Sure.
scenario, ecological disaster, everything sucks.
Outside is
And then
horrible, like dystopian kind. Yeah.
it's a big turd. You're eating turd sandwiches. It's horrible. And then you put on your haptic suit and your gregarious games headset, and then you access the Oasis where you can be whoever you want to be and blah blah. So it's this escape into a virtual realm. That's sort of the dominant view of what the metaverse is this virtual world like the Oasis that you go into by means of a head mounted display like VR glasses. You access that world, and that world is like reality, has properties of being in real time. It's persistent, and it's a world in which we're all kind of there at the same time. If you think of Fortnite, the Travis Scott concert, or the DJ
Mm.
Marshmello concert, or the Roblox with Lil Nas X, though that's done through sharding. So it's not like you're there with 20 million people. It's that you're there with maybe 1,000 other people sharing an instance of the Travis Scott concert. So there might be some delays there. There might be some lag. I might finish the concert and you kind of have 5 minutes left because of the connection speeds and stuff like that. So you're really just sharing little instances of the Travis Scott concert. But that's not how reality works, right? When you're at a Travis Scott concert, you and I are there, and Simon, we're all going nuts and moshing. It's like we're moshing together at one concert. So one property of the metaverse is that it is a virtual world in which we're all actually there together and experiencing that together in real time, live. And there's economies associated with that. There's the ability, very Second Life like, right, this ability to create businesses within that, be who you want to be. There's virtual fashion stuff. So that's the view of the metaverse. That's very much like a virtual world that you go into. You leave this world and go there. And my view is more that or what I'm focusing on is this view that it's sort of this dimension that sits on top of reality, that's this layer that you'll be able to access and kind of move around in. And if you step back, though, I think the metaverse is just both of those. So it's having one identity, like Enoch Root, right? You're able to access all these different worlds, but it's still you. And so there's this kind of layer that exists that needs to be built. And I think that a lot of blockchain companies and crypto companies are doing some really interesting stuff there, with identity and asset libraries and digital asset management and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, for sure. Like, there's lots of experiments that are going on at the moment, and ourselves at MintGox, we're experimenting with this, right?
Yeah.
Like, say that iOS, Apple release the, Apple Classes SDK. They announce it at the next developer,
Mm.
what do they call them?
Worldwide
Developer
Developer Conference. Yeah.
conference. That's what I'm looking for.
WWDC.
Yeah. Do you have any grand plans for what you would do with Aglet with that? Like, do you have a vision, or
Oh, absolutely.
how does that work? How does that metaverse hybrid world work? Kind of.
Yeah. I wish I was
Aglet,
on my. I wonder if I can share that.
Oh yeah. Different computer.
I'm on a different computer. Yeah. So we had an illustrator, because like everything that I'm saying, it sounds, it's kind of abstract.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not like it's not complex or something. It's just, how do you imagine what that looks like? So
There's like so many possibilities, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. And what is it? Basically, what the hell is this guy talking about? And so what we did was, we worked with a guy named Thomas, who's a game illustrator, and we just kind of tasked him with, okay, here's our vision. What does that look like? And so he created 4 or 5 illustrations in sort of this really, really sick kind of comic book style of like, okay, what does that on life world look like, where here's the world just as you would see it in kind of an establishing shot in a film. There's New York City, just buildings and how you would normally see it. But what if you put your glasses on, then what do you see? You see the buildings, but then you see like a virtual, maybe Aglet store. You see a virtual Nike shop sitting on top of that. You might see, like something blinking, which is like a station that you have to check into. And how do you see that? You see that by means of the glasses.
So it's like in Pokemon Go, you kind of have to look through your phone to see the AR, and it's like, it's not really, it's obviously, it's cool, but it's kind of a pain, right? So people eventually just they turn the AR mode off and just play Pokemon Go normally. But with glasses, that could actually be a level where it's more pleasurable to have it on all the time.
And I think so. And I don't really, I'm old enough now to remember when like people were wearing the Bluetooth speaker that you would like, or the Bluetooth earpiece that you would wear like for calls.
Yeah,
and it was like,
still have. Well, they have.
I still see.
Now, I guess. Yeah.
Well, now you have like AirPods. It's kind of the same thing.
Earbuds,
but like back then, it was, people would make fun of those people and be like, I feel like, I don't know if he's crazy or who he's talking to. Like, no one's gonna be wearing those things.
Yeah.
And then you had this thing of like, man, nobody's gonna read on their phones. Like I just don't see that happening. And then now you see like pictures, just like literally everyone on the train is like just reading on their phones. You always get this stuff, right? It's like, nobody's going to be doing that. Or there's, even the DEC CEO was something like, there's only room for like 100 computers in the world. So
they said that about telephones, didn't they? Right? Every major city may have a telephone by,
Exactly. So it's like, there's always this stuff. And so like, I don't buy this argument of like, well, nobody's going to wear those things like Google
Until
Glass
everybody does.
failed and blah blah. It's like, yeah, nobody's going to do it until it's amazing. And so, you know, I just think that's where we're going. You know, there's like it could be contact lenses, it could be
I'm
whatever, but
waiting
like
for
you're
the glasses because I have like a dog I have to walk twice a day, and and I try to do some work on my phone, but obviously when you're looking at your phone
mm,
and you end up walking into a river or something. But if I could just have something that was, kind of
yeah,
positioned in 3D space that I could, get extra
totally.
content or something. Or
And I actually think this is like socially good. It's a good thing that you now sort of, it's almost like, when humans became kind of bipedal, like it opened up
for your
the
hands or
space
something.
of using your hand, freeing up the hands to actually create tools, and use them, but also like making the face upward so that language
Yeah,
could
like
develop.
looking down at your phone
Um,
is not great for anybody, right? But
no, it's
maybe
not. And but like now the world kind of opens up, and you're sort of, I think it sounds like a bit freer to sort of see the world in a new way. And
people won't
again, this
forget
kind
people's
of,
names anymore. That'll be the first
you
app.
know,
Who is this? That's so and so.
yeah,
You met
who
him
is
here.
it? Exactly.
They owe
So,
you money. Okay.
and that's goes to that the whole point of talking what we talked about earlier of like, the difference between a shoe and a sneaker, or a difference between a car and or sorry, a difference between a guitar and a Les Paul, is like objects just have these almost virtual dimensions to them of like the meaning of it.
Hmm.
And I think that you can sort of bring that out and tease that out, almost the soul of these objects, and make those accessible by means of the glasses. And if you look at what Apple's doing, they're preparing everything. It's not like, like these the AirPods
The
Max
Wow.
headphones. It's like, it's not like they're just making the AirPods Max headphones to sell them. They're obviously preparing spatial audio for a headset, you know.
Okay. I
Um,
didn't realize they
and
had like spatial virtual
oh yeah, the
audio.
spatial audio stuff is, and this is incredible. And so I'm really into that lately, the spatial audio, because a
Yeah, I
lot of
have
the
them.
metaverse. Yeah,
Oh, go on.
go ahead.
I was gonna say
Well, a lot.
go ahead. You're the guest.
Who's gonna go? Okay, guess first. Um, the most of the discussions around the metaverse are it's very visually dominated, and I think that the audio side of the metaverse is also very fascinating with, spatial audio. So like in our game, we're thinking about the spatial audio side, because if you go, let's say you go to, like in LA, you go to the Capitol Records building, which is in Hollywood, and again, most kids have no idea what it is, Capitol Records. Um, if you're a fan of the Beastie Boys, like the Beastie Boys were with Def Jam, left Def Jam and signed with Capitol Records. But the Beastie Boys also wore Adidas Campus sneakers. They wore a lot of Adidas products. So imagine that you actually physically go to the actual Capitol Records building, and what you're able to unlock in our game is
Hmm.
like a concert. And so when I tap into that, I check in, like hearing, it's a whole new kind of event that you can have, like the spatial audio that you could
Pilgrimage
unlock
almost.
at that location is very. Or I mentioned the Lakers in the Forum. Like imagine going to the Forum on like some kind of like a pilgrimage and getting a sneaker, but I could unlock like audio clips of a famous Lakers Celtics game, and sort of like be there on the court and sort of hear that
You kind of
experience.
imagine it anyway, right? So that's what people do. They imagine it anyway. So if that can just be like, in VR,
Yes,
AR, if that could be projected, then that would be even a
absolutely.
more high fidelity experience.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So that's my view of the metaverse. Like there are these properties. There's obviously like on the technological side and like the infrastructure side, there are things that need to be built. You need to fix various things. There's a lot of companies doing cool stuff, like Improbable is one, doing some cool stuff there. And then there's all kinds of things like NFTs. So
Yeah, let's get into that because
I-
obviously this is like a
yeah,
Bitcoin kind of podcast. So like
yeah,
when you first started, you kind of said that originally you were called Sneaker Crypt, but then you had
yeah,
like technical difficulties with NFTs. And myself, I've actually been a kind of Bitcoin developer, but I also did a lot of some like token development even before Ethereum when you
Yeah.
did it on Bitcoin, and then I did some Ethereum, and it's a very interesting and difficult area, I think, But I just
Yeah.
wondered, like, what were your thoughts on that? Like, so what did you find appealing about it, and what kind of were
Mm.
the challenges, or like what's the future?
Yeah.
Would you say?
Why it was appealing to me was what was the well, looking at the sneaker industry and seeing that that scarcity was such a what was really the engine for all this hype, right? Was
Mm.
like the provability of an asset, like that you own this asset, but also that that asset is one of 100 or number two of 100, and everyone being able to actually see that. And in the sneaker industry, there's a lot of counterfeits, in all collectibles, right? Like even like trading cards and basketball cards are coming back now and getting
Oh.
really big. And there's a lot of fakes. So how do you prove provenance, but also how do you have digital scarcity? And so that's why CryptoKitties was important to me. Was I love cats. Apparently you do as well.
Well, I think we
But
had a cat bombed the podcaster. We started.
yeah, so I love, we don't have our cats anymore. They got really jealous when
It's
our son was
asleep.
born and
Oh, okay.
started
Oh, that's
pooping in
horrible.
my shoes and stuff. But um yeah, so like when I saw CryptoKitties and started talking a little bit to, Fabian, the guy that did the ERC 721 standard and all this, like I just kind of saw this is very obvious that this needs to be done in the sneaker industry. And when I had this thing of like, okay, I'm starting to see a lot of my friends and this younger generation finding digital assets in game worlds just as collectible and desirable as physical objects. Well, then it just seemed to make sense to me that like there needs to be a game world where you can own digital assets and digital objects just like you do in real life, and they have very, very similar properties. you know and so if we go back to this example of walking around in the world with a pair of glasses on, and you and I approach, let's say, a sneaker box that we see on the side of the road, that's a virtual sneaker box, and like there's only one of them to get, and you get it before I do, um, and then it should disappear in my purview. I shouldn't see it anymore. It's gone. You have it, and it's provable that that is yours. Somebody can screenshot it or whatever and share it around, but they don't own it. It's not provable that they own this asset. So for me, that was kind of the reason why that we wanted to do it. Was these are collectibles. They're things that can be faked. There's a lot of fakes out there. It's a multi-billion-dollar market in the sneaker industry, counterfeit sneakers. There's like examples in certain countries where Adidas manufactures and makes those sneakers in those countries, and then like in the same factory in the back, they're just making fake ones and selling them. So they're indistinguishable. They're just as good, obviously, because they know how to make them,
Yeah,
the real ones.
the same
And so
factory worker. It's a little side hustle, maybe.
yeah, a little side hustle. And so that was really the desire. Was I can see how these digital assets and game assets are going to be more and more desirable as we start hanging out in these game worlds. And so how do you get that sort of ownership of an asset, that you own it? It's provable that you own it. It's scarce, and you can do what you want with it. And so those were some of the reasons why we wanted to pursue it. And then just through some testing, it was just like we were confident that Aglet would grow, and then we were just a bit worried, like, is the experience going to be shit if it does grow? And all the evidence seems to indicate that if you do create something somewhat successful, that the experience just isn't very good.
It's the
Um,
problem with blockchains. They are very bad at scaling. And
yeah, yeah. Well, and if you're going to create a game where you're on the move on your phone,
yeah.
then obviously that's a problem as well, right? We couldn't really build it. we couldn't build the experience to be a really great experience on a mobile device as well. So
Yeah. Also, I think
um,
Apple have restrictions around NFTs, pretty
that
tokens,
that's
and
that was the other issue exactly, and so
yeah,
we didn't want to build like a
I've been down this road.
if, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and so and that's what I meant by the utility. It's like the assets for us had more utility in that location based
Hmm.
style of gameplay where you're going around in the world. But like if we would just create like a sneaker crypt at the very, very beginning was not location based. It was web based. And what you were doing was breeding sneakers. So we had all the sneakers with like a DNA structure. There were what we called kind of like the cattributes. We had kicktributes, and they all had DNA, and you could buy these sneakers with ether, and then you could like start breeding sneakers together. And we had these really cool genetic algorithms we were playing around with that like you could breed the sneakers and it would spit out these kind of mutations. And then if you would get like a sneaker that very obviously looks like a mix, the other thing was that, well, what if you got a kind of special sneaker and that was like the Jesus sandal, or that was the these kind of rare sneakers. So yeah, so we were playing around with all this stuff, and then it just kind of came down to, well, that might be popular for a little while, but now there's too many. It's just, again, the utility is just not the scalability of our experience, and the future is much, much brighter by doing it just kind of old school.
Yeah, I think again, I think goes back to your Google Glasses thing. It's like some things can be too soon. They can be great ideas, but maybe the tech isn't quite there to do it in a way that is actually, usable. I would
Yeah,
say, and I had to say,
yeah.
I made my first Bitcoin game in 2013, and it was fun until Bitcoin didn't scale. So, but now we have like
Mm,
the Lightning Network. I'm kind of building again with the Lightning Network for
yep,
Bitcoin, but I had the same thing with the tokens. But then like there's not quite yet like I feel a scaling so, solution for tokens just there, but I think there's also other kind of I think tokens can be even more difficult because you have the scaling aspect, but then I think you also have the gameplay aspect, right? I'm not sure if you've had thoughts about that, but like I've seen a few different games where they've kind of they've tokenized their products, and then in a way the game just becomes some sort of like trading app, and uh
yep,
like in a way like there's some games where they they a user would buy up all the tokens and then dump them, and there's like sharks trading it, and then the game became
yep,
unplayable in a way just because
yep,
new users were being scammed and all. It's a very
yep,
it's a very I think it's super interesting and cool, but I think it's like it's going to take a few different iterations,
yeah.
I think, to get it right. I don't
Well,
know if you have.
that's yeah, that's the important point too. Is like it's, again, like I'm kind of, maybe I'm repeating myself, but it's that if the only use case is you get a scarce good and then you flip it and make money on it. Um, if that's the only use case, it's not like I don't like that.
Yeah.
Again, I flip sneakers, I resell sneakers. I do that. I have been I was mining Bitcoin in 2011,
Oh,
using my first startup, using our incubator's electricity to mine. And we stopped because it was kind of pointless after a while.
yeah.
But like, um, it's I just think it's
Yeah, you might
the
as well
you
just make
the
like trade token with no like artistic element to it whatsoever in a way, and just
yeah, it's just that if the only thing is that you can trade it, or you can speculate with it. If that's the only thing, like that is for a lot of people, cool, do it. But that's just not what we wanted to do. We wanted, what we want to do is almost like create life as a game. That you are moving around in the world, the physical world. You move around, you travel places, you're moving. And it's, how do you make that a gameful experience that anything that you do, you could earn aglet.
Mhm.
You could check into Coachella and earn aglet for the, just like a Foursquare, but like Foursquare 4.0. You check in there and then you're earning all this aglet, and then you have this avatar that you can style in various ways, and your avatar even the more active you are, it gets in shape. You don't play Aglet for a while, you might have a little muffin top with your avatar. So how do you create that where your virtual self in the game, and then you as the actual physical person, as you're moving around in the world, that is gamed. It's the on life operating system is what we call it. It's just like this kind of this new OS. It's just a game layer, and you're the player. It's a first person game. It's life.
Yeah.
It's on life, and you earn this currency by doing various things.
Like, I kind of think to some extent all games are centralized to some extent because you obviously made the game and you have the code. So I kind of think that I think a lot of people
Mm,
make the mistake think that the whole game has to be like on the blockchain like CryptoKitties. But in a way it doesn't make too much sense to have your whole game on the blockchain if your game is a centralized app anyway. So I think maybe you have like a spectrum
mm,
model, right? Yeah, where most of your game is on your system, it runs smooth. There was a blockchain game, I think probably the first blockchain game called Spells of Genesis, uh, if you know about them. But they had a card game,
yeah,
but you eventually upgrade your cards to a blockchain card, and so most of the game was fun
yeah.
for users. But if you got to that level, then you could go on the expensive, slow but valuable blockchain. So
Very astutely observed. I think this is what we will ultimately do. We're talking about it is so there's some of our whales, like we've got a guy who we released three of a particular sneaker, and this really cool guy, like he bought all three of them, but they were $800 a piece. Like not 800 aglet, but like $800. Like he bought gold aglet, and then he spent $800 on each of these sneakers, right? So he spends over 2 grand. So that's a big investment for a virtual sneaker. Um, but what if there was like a power up, where you could say, you verb it. It's like I want to blockchain it. I want to mint it.
mhm.
And now maybe for a couple bucks or whatever it is, like you can power up that sneaker and put it on the blockchain. So now you're just overlapping the platform that if you want to, you could blockchain that sneaker and mint it, so that if whatever happens, you still have that asset that exists, on a blockchain. So that's kind of what we're exploring a little bit in the background, is like how do we do that?
Do you think that, say there's a game that they make, for example, somebody gets a shoe and it's a Nike shoe, and then they blockchainize it, and it's on the blockchain forever, but then Nike send a cease and desist letter to the company and say, hey, remove this shoe from your game.
Hmm.
Do you think that token still has value, or like how would
I think it'd probably go up and have more value
it be
if
like
that would happen.
the forbidden one?
There like yeah, because this happened in real life, where there's a guy that was, like Nike's just suing a bunch of companies now, that are.
Probably have a whole department that has to hit
Oh
quotas.
yeah, I mean they have, yeah. I mean, but there was a guy that was doing some really cool kind of spin-offs and customizations of Nike. So like instead of there's a sneaker that's a low, called a Nike Dunk, and it's kind of a skateboard shoe, and you had the swoosh, but then he changed the where it kind of elevates the swoosh. He changed it to the Jason Voorhees mask,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
then he was selling them on his website, kind of his own customization and spin on that, and then Nike, hit him with lawyers.
Mm.
But then those sneakers on the secondary market like went crazy in value. So I think I think that it would actually probably increase
The same thing happened
in
with
value.
guitars, like Telecaster guitar. It was originally called the Broadcaster, but there was a copyright claim. It's like the first electric guitar that ever came out. So they just
Oh really?
basically
Okay.
had to, yeah, it's called the Broadcaster. But then because they got sued, they basically had to go and like just basically scratch the name Broadcaster off it, and then they eventually changed the name to Telecaster. But there's a range in between where all these like broken broadcasters which have the name literally sanded off, but they're worth a shit. Sorry, they're worth
Yeah,
a lot
exactly.
of money, even though
Yeah,
they're illegitimate guitars. But because of that,
yeah,
it has some sort of folklore to it, I guess, the
yeah.
forbidden guitar.
There's a baseball card from, I think it's, I'll get the date wrong. I think it's an '88 Topps, and it's a baseball player. His name is Billy Ripken, and he's like probably a below average baseball player. But there's this card, and like he's standing facing the camera, and he's holding the baseball bat like this, and then here on the bottom of the bat, it said F you, but like fuck
Yeah,
you. And then it was like discontinued by Topps. They had to like stop it.
sure.
So of course, even though this guy was a below average baseball player, like that card was very, very desirable because obviously because of the FU and the expletive, but also because they it was sort of, deemed problematic, right?
Mm.
So I just think that there are always these objects like that. If you think of even Michael Jordan, like there was a sneaker that came out called the Nike Air Ship, that was before the Jordan 1. It was the one that he wore before he had the Jordan 1 sneaker. Um, and he wore it in black and red, and they banned the sneaker. He wasn't allowed to wear that. And so now the Jordan banned series is like it's itself as a thing, and they're always very rare and they're very hard to get. So like even anytime you ban something or make it illegal or whatever, it's like
It's all
Napster
about the
was the
story
same.
behind it, really, isn't it? If the
Yeah.
community, likes the story, then they give it value, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what we were getting at the top of it when you asked, like, okay, what is a sneakerhead? It's all about the story, and what the story is. Again, it's memory, it's inspiration, it's the significance behind it, it's the cultural references. It fits into kind of ecosystem of meaning, and that's what makes it desirable. That's why it's different than a sketcher
Yeah, I
or a
think the. Are you familiar with the YouTube channel Extra Credits? They're very kind of popular
yeah,
game developer
yeah,
kind of, and
yeah,
they did a video on blockchain, and they kind of thought they weren't too interested in the scarcity or like the kind of the resale value of tokens, but they wanted to see, because the token exists and it could have a history, would you have game
no.
items that would kind of build a story, right? It was owned by this address, and this address was this famous esports player or
Yeah,
something
man.
like that. Maybe
Yeah.
that's an interesting kind of
There's
creative
there is
tool.
totally something to that. I mean, think about if you well, you just gave a great example, right, of a guitar that maybe it's like if somebody has a guitar that was played by Stevie Ray Vaughan or Hendrix or whatever, and like who has owned it, and you
Yeah,
have houses, like a house that
who
if
lived there?
if
Yeah,
I yeah, if I sold a house in Malibu, I could probably sell it for whatever, like 10 million. But if it's Brad Pitt selling it, it's probably double that or something like that. I mean, of course, I
yeah,
look better than Brad Pitt, but like, it's just,
sure.
it's Brad Pitt, and I think the 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 ownership of that and the story behind where this thing is owned and sort of passed through its life cycle. I mean, it definitely impacts the value of physical products.
Yeah,
Um,
it'd be interesting to see how
and
well
there's no
that
reason why it
translates
can't.
because
Yeah.
obviously we have digital items that aren't physical. Will it continue as normal or will it be a bit different? I'm kind of excited generally to see what happens. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
anyway. We've been
Yeah.
talking for quite a while, and I'm conscious of your time. But we need to do the important segment of the show, which is we're gonna get you to do a lightning lap, as we call it. So we have a
Right.
game, Bitcoin Rally, that you'll be able to play this MintGox on Sunday. This is the audience. But we get our guests on this show to do a lap of one of our tracks, and everybody does the same track and uses the same cart. So let me just share the leaderboard here.
Yeah.
So we have the current leaderboard. We can see we've got 10 people
50
so far.
seconds. Yeah.
The top one is Nicolas Dorier from BTC Pay. He did 50 seconds, but he was practicing like every day. He was crazy. He was like messaging me and like saying, "Hey, you know, tell me the strategy. Does this make a difference?"
All right. And in full disclosure, I did practice, but I practiced. I did 2 runs, and I did the completely different track.
Yeah, I
So
think Ryan actually. I sent him the build late, but he also, for some reason, he
I
downloaded
don't.
like the full version of the game, so he was practicing on the wrong track. So maybe we'll do another track at another time. But yeah,
And I have to say the regular game, the my favorite was the roller coaster. That was my favorite car.
yeah, you
Yeah.
have to have that one in.
Yeah. That was sweet.
Cool.
I also noticed a couple times. One question, real quick, was
Yeah,
I
go
noticed
on.
a couple times that when I started, the game would kind of like start shaking.
Okay.
Like
The
was that
camera?
because of the roller coaster, or yeah, it was kind of like the view, like it started to shake, almost like I was on a roller coaster. Was that
Um,
not supposed
that's
to happen,
that's
or
probably a bug with the camera not
okay?
following. Yeah.
Well, it was a pretty good bug, and then yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess it works for the roller coaster. Do you have the game open?
I do.
Okay, so let me. You remember the password, so don't say it on air because other people, random
Yeah.
people, might join the game.
Okay, yeah,
Let me just.
pretty much.
I
I'm
need
gonna
to
join the
get it
game.
ready. I haven't made the game yet, so it won't be there.
Oh,
I'm making it right now. Let me get the game open my end. Okay, let me shrink this screen down. There we go. I think we can see it on the live stream, folks. Yeah. I can't use the video sharing software to share the game because it just looks jerky. So I need to use a local OBS stream. Anyway,
yeah.
yeah, so I'm going to make the game now. So give me a second. In the Europe server, so I'll call you Ryan.
What is that hoodie you have on?
It's my sister made it for me. Well, she designed it for Christmas or birthday. This says Crypto Cat. She knows I like cats. I'm into Bitcoin, so she made like Crypto Cat.
Nice.
Very nice of her.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Cool. Okay, I've made the game. You should be able to join.
All right. Online, free match, join game.
So, folks, for folks who are watching, if you have any questions after we've done the game, we're just going to do some questions for the audience for Ryan. So, if you have any questions, now's the time to write them on the chat. And Ryan will do 4 laps, and his best lap will be the time. Make sure to tune your car.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with the not full speed.
Okay, but a lot on speed. Cool.
Here we go. Yeah, I'll go high speed, and then the rest I'll go on acceleration because around some of the turns.
Yeah, you can slow down quite a bit, especially if you hit a wall.
Yeah.
So the first lap is just going to be like a practice lap. Because you start from 0, it's never going to be your fastest, so just chill. And then after that, there's 3 laps that matter.
Here we go.
You have to get at least better than 75 seconds, I believe. That's our base level, which I'm sure you'll do fine.
What if my best lap is my first one?
Well, that's would be surprising. That means you would have messed up a lot on the second one. But if it is, we'll count it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, there we go.
That's a coin corner, we call it, because we had coin corner folks on, and they always crash there. That's the most difficult one.
Yeah. And this one?
Well, you did that quite well. Just need to remember how to learn to brake right. Yeah. I think you could have braked a bit less there. You know, you still had a lot of space on the right. There is a cow that might appear as well.
I know, it freaked me out last time. It was like David Lynch moment.
I don't know where he is though. Okay.
Alright, here we go.
Focus. Nice and smooth. Don't worry about getting the coins, I'll only slow you down, but you still get them anyway. Oh, nicely done.
There we go.
Oh, well, okay, it's not the end of the world.
Fucking hell. You almost have to just stop completely.
Yeah, maybe. It depends. Like, I've seen some videos of players and they just really, they almost crash but don't, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. This looks like a good lap, actually.
I need to be sub 60.
Sub 60, that's what you're going for. See where that would place you. Well, sub 60 would place you in the top 4. And you're a CEO of a gaming company, so you have to do well.
Yeah, damn it. A damn turn there.
Well, you've got like another lap after this, so. So for the audience, at MintGox 13, we will be doing a special Aglet tournament where you'll be able to race in an Aglet car, which I'm going to show a sneak preview of in a second. Okay, final lap.
Here we go.
I almost don't want to talk.
Yeah, I'm focused, man. Coming after that BitPay guy, Bitcoin Pay.
BTC Pay.
Oh, what happened there?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, it's all smooth sailing from now.
Boom.
Okay, let's just take a look at. So I can see the results.
Can I withdraw my sats?
Go for it. Yeah, you can.
Using Zebedee.
Okay. I think what you may have done on that last lap, you might have hit one of the buttons which resets your position.
Oh, okay.
There is a button that if you hit it, it will reset your position. And it's kind of like if you get stuck somewhere. I think that's maybe what happened.
Gotcha. All right.
But we got some good times there. Okay, I'm just making a note of the fastest time. Hold on.
Did I get sub 60 at least once?
Oh, that's. I can't just say that easily. I've got to build up suspense. Let me just close the game down and expand our video. Cool. So, how do you think you did?
I feel like the first one I probably got 60, 62. Second run was probably a little bit, I would say it's about the same, maybe a 61. I think the last run I probably had, I think the last one I may have got a 59.
Okay. So you think, yeah, your best score is maybe 59.
Yeah.
So that would place you 4th if it was 59, which is very respectable, seeing as you've only been playing today. But you were playing on the wrong track, so you've only actually been practicing like today.
Come on.
Okay, well, let's have a look. Let me just... And let's take a break to mention our... No.
Let's take a break, yeah. We'll just commercial break.
Okay. And probably you got 56.734, so much better than you thought. That's really good.
Okay.
I kind of feel that last one, if you hadn't have knocked that button that reset your position, then you may have got better than that.
I may have got 3rd, yeah. Maybe
I don't think you would have got 3rd, maybe
54, 55, maybe.
54. But I'll say what, we'll have you on again sometime, and we can probably, I'm sure there's going to be lots of stuff to chat about with Aglet and MintGox and stuff, and
absolutely,
so there's definitely time to. But that is a very respectable score. Well done.
Thank you.
Whilst I'm here, I'm just going to show the Aglet cart that we're working on, which is Ryan came up with the name for it. It's a sneak car. We go. So at MintGox 13, you'll be able to race as the Aglet cart by the sponsored tournament, which will be sponsored by Aglet. So looking forward to doing that. And also Aglet will be, we'll announce more detail in the future, but in the next couple of months, Aglet are also going to do kind of a Bitcoin giveaway in the app, which will be something like you go to like a treasure stash and The
Yeah.
first people who go there will be able to kind of collect. They'll be rewarded some Bitcoin, so that's going to be really awesome. And I actually say that because I actually had a geocaching Bitcoin game that people would drop Bitcoin around the world, like sponsors and stuff, and just people who
Mm.
want to drop Bitcoin, and people would go to all these places and pick it up. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
And
I
mean,
remember when we first met, you were telling me about that.
was I? Yeah, for
What was
sure.
it? What was it called?
Takara.
Yeah.
Takara. Yeah, it was great, and it was fortunately it was on chain, so it kind of got to a point where it stopped working because of feeds, and we actually started to
Mm.
bring it back with Lightning. But then COVID happened, and then like people couldn't go
Mm.
out. So I thought, well,
Yeah.
we'll probably bring it out again at some point. But anyway, maybe
Mm.
Aglet becomes that application as well.
No, I think that's what we want to do. I mean, maybe we could have a MintGox, store in the game, like little virtual MintGox shops that you can
That would be
get
awesome.
sats. You know,
Yeah, let's definitely talk about
no
that
reason
off
why we
air.
can't do
But
that.
well, you've
Yeah,
said
let's
it
talk
now; it's
about
going
it.
to happen.
Yeah, now it's gonna happen. So, I want to know if these two guys on your team are gonna get in the sneaker design contest.
Yeah, so let's talk about the sneaker design contest. So Aglet have kindly agreed to do well. We are running it. We're running a design competition that we're going to announce tomorrow. But you'll basically be able to design your own sneaker, and the winning designs will actually be added as sneakers in the Aglet app. And
Mm.
yeah, so the theme is going to be Bitcoin. So anybody from the community, you'll be able to download like a template, and you'll be able to kind of design a Bitcoin sneaker. And we're going to choose
Mm.
up to 3 of winning submissions, and we're going to give 10,000 sats to each of the winners, and your design will be immortalized forever in the Aglet app.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm really excited
We've
what
done.
people come up with.
Yeah, it's crazy the stuff that people come up with. We've done a couple on our own, couple designs, and then we partnered with a company called Dirty Souls over in the US in New Jersey. And that was for younger kids like 15, 16, I think up to 18. And I don't know, just some really, really cool stuff that they came up with. The 3 winners, their sneakers went into the game. And then we've done 2 other sneaker design competitions where we've selected 3 winners, and we had thousands and thousands of submissions,
Wow.
which made it. We had to go through and pick them, and we had some some judges that we brought in that are like kind of famous sneaker designers that could check them out and give some feedback on the designs. But a lot of the sneakers that are in the game right now are actually designed by the community, and so there's some really wacky stuff in there that's fun.
There is a
So
website I think where you have some of your community designs, is there not? I remember seeing it. I'm not sure if we know that URL. Oh no, it's on
uh
your Instagram, I think.
yeah, I think on our Instagram has
Yeah, I remember seeing it. And some are
definitely
really,
has some of
really
the stuff.
cool.
There's like some really crazy stuff that kids came up with, like the meat grinder. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick.
Yeah, I'll share screen to the Instagram here so people. But this is actually cool because it's art, but it's also functional art, which
Yeah,
I think there was some philosopher said that art can't be functional, but maybe he was wrong.
art can't be
Oh, I
functional.
think he said true art has no purpose other than itself. I think he said. I don't know, but I don't think that's true. I think there's, an object can have 2 roles, right? It can be a functional thing and it can be a piece of art, and it
Mm,
kind of exists between 2. But anyway,
I'm trying to figure out who.
so I kind
That
of
kind of sounds like something Schopenhauer would say, because
I actually
it's
heard it
very
off
negative.
Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear was saying it. He said that they had a car that was meant to be. It was artistic because it was useless because the car was rubbish. It couldn't drive. So philosophically, the fact that the car was terrible means that it could exist as a piece of art.
Right. Okay.
I don't know.
Um, yeah. So I guess if you scroll up real quick, sorry, the one with the skateboard. Yeah. So it's we're not revealing the whole thing because it's going to come out, but that's an Aglet skate sneaker. So that was designed by one of our designers that works with us. His name's Joe, Joseph. I actually really like this one. Like I would totally cop this one in real life. And yeah, if you just maybe go to another one. Let's see. There's a lot of New Balance, Black Lives Matter. A lot of these are existing sneakers. The Timberlands, Kobe's, New Balance, Adidas. So these are like, I mean, these are some of the newer ones. So
Christmas theme,
that's an
yeah.
original. So okay, so here's a good example. So like this black one, the shock drop, if you go up, the one on the left and on the right there. So this is a guy who has his own sneaker brand that he's just launched. It's called Social Studies, and he's based in LA. And his brand's getting pretty big, and so he liked what we were doing, and we put the virtual sneaker on here first, and then you could kind of link out and buy the physical when it dropped, when it came out. So what we're really trying to do here is promote and give some shine to the up and comers. It's like, who's next? And like you said earlier, how do you even become a sneaker designer? How does that happen? And so hopefully this Aglet becomes a place where you can do that. You can explore your designs.
So it would be really cool. Like, do any of the people who design the sneakers, is maybe not at the moment, but do you envision that you could partner with some like sneaker manufacturers, is that the right word, but to actually make the designs like a real product? Has that happened, or
so in April we will release the Aglet 1 in real life. So what we did was we had a bunch of sneakers, early on, had probably 300 or 400 sneakers. And what we were able to do is sort of see like what our players really liked, what kind of styles. And so our head of design, head of illustration, Dan Freebairn, came up with this Aglet 1 design. It was our first sneaker, the Aglet 1, very much in the kind of the tradition of like a Stan Smith or a Adidas Superstar. And we put that in the game, and it's now the best-selling sneaker in the whole game. It now sells better than any of the bigger brands.
Oh wow!
And so we actually had a manufacturer reach out to us and said, we really love what you're doing, and we will be making that physically. It comes out in reality in April.
Nice. Wow.
So right on kind of the 1-year anniversary of us launching the game, we'll put out the Aglet 1, so the physical sneaker.
Yeah, so I kind of think it'll be like, so technically, if the one of the Bitcoin shoes is good, then it could be a possibility that it could be an actual shoe people could wear. Probably people might not want to wear it because people don't like advertising they have Bitcoin.
Maybe unless they want to like really flex that like some of the people like didn't hodl on the on their license plates or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. I guess if you live in a safe neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to find the.
I'll just show the audience. There was I remember a few months back, I think BTC Pay Server, which is Nicolas Dorier, the current champion, his project, they had a sneaker that somebody, I think some NFL player wore it, and that was their design. So
oh, cool.
Yeah, you could probably maybe get that in Aglet as well at some point.
Yeah, we should put that in the game.
Yeah. Well, I can put you in touch with those guys. They're all about open source, so everything is like open for people to use, I think. But yeah. So yeah, but I'm sure people would go crazy over an awesome Bitcoin shoe. So I'm really excited to see what people design. And I said we got up to 3 submissions, so like 3 ones we'll choose. So it would be nice to have maybe like a more techno Bitcoin design, and then a more maybe cultural Bitcoin design, and then maybe a more philosophical financial Bitcoin design.
Yeah. Maybe like what I wonder what was Satoshi wearing? What would Satoshi wear?
What would Adam Back wear? Sorry, no.
Yeah. What would Hal Finney wear?
Well, probably a lot of programmers wear sandals, don't they? Right, with socks.
Yeah. the Jesus sandals. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, I know that my computer professor did. So.
Yeah. No, I think like something like that. Like a.
Yeah, but that's a good idea, like Satoshi's shoe. And I guess like there is a religious aspect to Bitcoin, and people I actually do know some really Bitcoin fanatics who believe Satoshi is the second coming. But there's like a also as a metaphysical, like a mythological connection. I think about
Yeah.
movements and religion. So maybe there's a good analogy
Can
there,
you
right?
can you send me some articles on this, like that you've read? Or like are these just like people that you've met and they tell
Oh,
you
it's
this, or is
one
there
of
like
my friends
actual?
who he's a great guy, but he's quite, let's just say, a very strong believing Christian, and
Okay. Yeah.
he's part of a Christian in Japan who they believe Jesus went to Japan and Jesus died in Japan, and then he thought Bitcoin comes out Satoshi Nakamoto, right? This is like a biblical event, and
Hmm.
yeah, so he thought that Satoshi Nakamoto was Jesus, and now he believes that Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto. So I assume he thinks Craig Wright is Jesus. Um,
Oh no.
Interesting, but he's a really nice guy. So, but
What?
everyone has a.
Why does he think that Craig Wright is like what?
Lots of people do. Like I was in Japan at the time, living there, and like Craig Wright, it's kind of I was in the Bitcoin meetup in Japan, and this was before the whole split, and then Bitcoin split into Bitcoin Cash and like
Yeah.
Bitcoin, and the meetup kind of split, and I think each group was maybe trying to look for somebody to come and legitimize their point of view, and
Hmm.
Craig Wright came over and basically legitimized the Bitcoin Cash side. So okay, I'm Satoshi, and I think your chain is the right chain. So he kind of a lot of people followed him, and then he split from Bitcoin Cash to make Bitcoin SV. I don't know. He's very charismatic. I was there, and he was at a bar, and he was like everybody was loving high fiving him, and he was holding court. He's very
Hmm.
charismatic, and I just think it's the same old story, right? It's just
Hmm.
I don't want to say anything that because I know these people are litigious, but that type of character comes into a town. It's
Hmm.
like The Simpsons, the monorail episode, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah,
Interesting.
anyway,
Yeah. Okay. But has this person written any articles on this, like
yeah, he's got
exploring this?
podcasts. I can send some podcasts your way.
Yeah,
Some of
man,
them are
do
in
that.
Japanese, but I think he has some in English. But there's not just him. There's another fellow as well who's an American developer who has had a religious moment with Craig Wright. So I'll send them that your way as well.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
very
That's
interesting. From yeah,
that's a podcast.
yeah, he has a podcast, and yeah, I'll try and find the video where he met Craig Wright, and he broke, and he just literally, it's like the people have the religious experience. They born again Christians, they break down, they start
Yeah.
crying. One of those
Yeah.
podcasts, though. But yeah, I don't want to criticize people. Each their own. I'd probably
Yeah.
break
Yeah.
down if I met some people, certain heroes. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, good thing we didn't show the audience when when you first met me.
yeah, oh no,
You know, that was you broke down.
I did. Yeah,
That was pretty
I've
crazy.
been stalking you ever since.
I know. I know. That's good thing I was in the back room there.
Awesome. Cool. Just before we finish up, got a few questions from the audience.
Okay.
Um, if anybody has any questions, are you okay for time, or have you got like a few minutes to do? I don't want to.
Yeah,
We've
of
kind
course,
of
man.
gone.
I'm cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Can
So
I
if you have,
see the questions, or can you only see them?
yeah, unfortunately, the way that Twitch works and stuff, I can only see them at the moment because we're streaming to multiple platforms.
Right.
Anyway, one question. Okay, can we? Are you able to show us any of your sneakers? Do you have any that you want to show that you can quickly grab? Some audience would like to see a pair or
Sure.
something. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Let me get a couple.
Yeah. I'm gonna check. If you have questions, probably ask in the Twitch. I'm reading the Twitch. Okay, so Lucas Anderson said, "Hi, is there any way to invest into Zebedee?" Um, yeah, you would have to just contact Zebedee, and Zebedee is a company that companies raise money, so you'd have to ask them and go through the proper channels. But the best way to invest into Zebedee is just to join the Discord and be part of the community, and spread the word of Bitcoin gaming. That's probably the best way to invest. Any more questions? Oh, if you do have a question, probably write question in capitals on the chat. It'll be easier for me to see. Cool. Okay, here's a question here.
So I'll bring a couple here.
Okay. Also, we've got a few questions coming in.
Cool. So this is so my favorite sneaker brand is Yeezy. So Kanye's brand that he has with Adidas. And this is my favorite Yeezy sneaker. So this is called the Wave Runner. So it's the Yeezy 700 is the, and it's called the Wave Runner is kind of that style. So this is like called a dad shoe, and it was kind of that like chunky, like the chunky sneaker.
Good heel support.
Yeah, you got the good heel, and then you got like the Adidas Boost that's in here, and there's like some I don't know if you can catch the reflection, but the 3 stripes are here.
Yeah, are those shoelaces glow in the dark? They look almost like translucent.
They aren't, but actually these are not the shoelaces, but this is another Yeezy. This is the Yeezy 700 Volume 1, and this is the Yeezy 700 Volume 3, and this part here, these things here, this actually glows, does glow in the dark. So this is the V3 700.
Nice.
I really like this one a lot. This one's, I think it was $200, but then this one resells for like $600-700. And then my love of sneakers comes from Back to the Future. When I first saw the Nike Mag, the self-lacing sneaker. I don't have the Nike Mag, but this is my my self-lacing sneaker. So you've got basically here the laces, and then this is how you lace them. You can either lace them with the app to make them basically like when you put it on, it just remembers your settings, and then it just automatically goes. But if you want to make it tighter or looser, you do it here. They're not charged. I need to charge them.
Sure, pretty.
But this is really nice. I like this a lot. Back's nice. So that's that. This is how you charge them. You actually have a charger here that you put them like you put the sneaker on it, and then actually charges it. Yeah, so those most of my sneakers are upstairs, but I do have a shelf in there that's got 20 or 30 on it. So those
do you
are
have like a sneaker room full of sneakers.
Yeah, I do. So
do you have them on display, or do you keep them in the boxes, or I guess do you like frame them? Not frame them, but put them on like plaques.
Yeah. So upstairs I've got 2 big closets that have all my sneakers in them, and then I've got on the wall I've got like shelves, and then sort of my more valuable, kind of my holy grails of my collection are on the shelf. And then I have here in this hallway, this whole entire wall from here to the end of the hallway is also a shelf. And so there I've probably got, I think, 40-45 sneakers on this wall. And then upstairs I've probably got 100 sneakers there. So and then
they kind of have utility as in a way, just like art, right? I had the same thing with the guitar. I bought it, and like just I walk into the room and seeing it makes me happy, right? Like you see a nice painting. So
yeah, or just books. I mean, like you come in and you've got you got your books, or you've got here's all my
man cave,
my little man cave. There's my DeLorean. So like these are all just little things. It's like, and that doesn't exist so much anymore. It's like exactly. It's like your digital bedroom. It's like back in the day when you were a kid. If you brought your friend into your room and you saw your PlayStation, you saw maybe your smelly sneakers with a basketball next to it, maybe some Michael Jordan posters on the wall. Maybe you got some Star Wars sheets and your baseball cards or basketball cards over in the corner. It's like you come in and I learned something about you. And I don't think that actually we don't really have a place like what's the digital bedroom type thing.
I see.
And
so Crossing, people kind of make their little house.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
That's what my wife does all the time. But I guess
that's right.
Difficult for other people to join, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how we want to do social is that like on this map, kind of like I don't know if you use Snapchat, but like if you saw what Snapchat has done with their map, they've sort of brought it more to the forefront of the UI. So now you have like there's me, and so we want to do something similar with our map where like I can see like my friends and their avatar on the map. And then if I click on the avatar, it kind of brings up their room
Nice.
and all
Yeah.
the things that they've collected and like where they, where they've been, and their kind of engagement within the game and all that kind of stuff. So it's how do you build a digital bedroom that has all the assets that you're collecting, and that's also how the market will work then. So like if I go into your room, I can click on an object and then make a bid for it.
Exciting stuff. Awesome.
Yeah,
We've got a couple more
cool.
questions from the audience.
Okay.
Two more, kind of related, I guess. Like Ryan, almost 1 year after launch, how does the current state of Aglet differ from the initial vision in both positive and negative ways? That is from
Mm,
Robert Behrens. Probably saying that wrong. But...
yeah. I think, well, like what you were saying with, you launching your, or not launching and keeping it going, a Bitcoin location game. We literally released the game right when the world went into lockdown. And so we could have said, oh shit, like we're screwed. But we try to run the company like an improv group. So any input that comes in is like just creative input for us.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, what do I do with this? How can we spin this positively? And so negatively, a lot of the social stuff that we wanted to build, we kind of had to backtrack on a little bit because we didn't want people congregating
Sure.
at
Yeah.
locations together and all that kind of stuff. So we really stripped down the game. And I think this was a great thing because the positive aspect of how it was different when we launched is that because of COVID, we really stripped it down to almost it's a kind of stupid skeleton. Just like the core bare bones of this game, which is walk around, earn aglet, and then be able to cop and collect sneakers. That's it. That's all the game is right now. And so what COVID pushed us to do was radically simplify the game experience. And for this first year, we've really kind of been hamstrung on we can't really have that much location-based play. But the flip side of this is that a lot of our players fell in love with our game because we did give them something to do during lockdown. It's not like governments for a while were encouraging the citizens like, hey, at least go out and get a
Yeah.
walk
Get
in.
some exercise.
Get
Yeah.
get yeah, get 35 minutes, 40 minutes, get a walk in. And that's kind of the job that they hired us to do for them. A lot of our players, right, was that they were looking at it like, oh, finally, like lockdown's fun. I can get out, I can move, I can get in shape, and I can collect these sneakers that I've always
Yeah.
wanted.
I guess if it's based on walking, then not necessarily, go to the specific like place, like Pokemon Go in
Yeah,
a way. Like go to this place. It's you have to congregate, right? But I guess
yeah,
if it's walking, people could enjoy the game also being distant from other people or whatever, right? They can
yeah,
just
yeah. So I think it's really two ways. It's like one, there's kind of that unforeseeable thing that happened, which is COVID, and we had to make some quick decisions about how we were gonna maybe not really pivot, but how we were gonna
mm,
tack a little bit and go in some different directions that would be good for our players and how we would grow our early community. Some bad things were that we had so many things planned that we really wanted to do that we kind of had to shelf. And so, I think negatively, it was just we had to kind of put the pause button a little bit on some stuff.
yeah.
But then on the flip side of that, it was we learned so much this year, and we were able to now do some stuff that we didn't have planned at all that we learned thanks to COVID. So
Yeah.
as disgusting as it sounds, like COVID was a plus for us because it helped us clarify and simplify and build a game that our community really enjoys, and also tighten up our roadmap going forward.
Awesome. Well, just to follow on from that, the next question is a bit related. It says, "What features are you excited for most in Aglet?" That's from
I'm de-
Gray Play 269.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really excited about the avatars because right now it's very much a sneaker game. And so when we do get the avatars in the game, being able to go with, hoodies and jeans and hats and jackets, jewelry, we're going to have cars in the game. Maybe the sneak car is in there. Maybe the MintGox. It's like, because again, it's about mobility. And our players are not just walking places, they're also riding bikes, they're also riding skateboards. The younger players, their parents are driving them 10 kilometers to go to one of these stations on our map, but they're not earning Aglet for those. So how can you earn Aglet through any kind of mobility or anything that you do? And so I'm excited about avatars, and I'm excited about additional ways for players to earn Aglet. I'm very excited about some of the brand partnerships that we have that we'll be releasing, that I think will be, really fun experiences for the players. And I'm very excited about when we open up the platform for the designers. That for me, that's really where my heart is. I want this to be a platform where we can create like an opportunity for the next great sneaker designer. Like people can make money designing products that people buy these virtual sneakers in the game. And like you said, maybe it pops in the game and it's in high demand, and then maybe that sneaker is made. I genuinely believe that's going to happen. And I don't see that as any different than like what I said earlier about how YouTube stars start virtually on that platform and then do actual physical concerts in real life in front of a whole stadium. So like, how can this be? It first starts natively in a virtual environment and then makes its way into reality. So
kind of
setting that up is very exciting to me.
the pink pill.
A purple pill. Yeah.
Purple pill, violet.
Yeah.
Purple.
Could be a purple pill as well, but pink pill.
Yeah, quite interesting. I used to live in Japan, and some colors translate differently. Like blue and green is very ambiguous. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot actually.
The grass is
Another
blue in Japan. They don't say it's green.
Oh, really?
But they're
Well, I guess
green. Their blue
Kentucky
is
is
green.
called the bluegrass state.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got one last question. I don't want to keep you too long, but you want to make sure these land in the hands of actual players. If hold on, question: you said that Aglet will be releasing a shoe in April. How will we be able to buy it, and how will you make it fair to avoid things like bots? That's from
Oh, yeah.
Awesome TT. So yeah, bots are always an issue.
Yeah, man.
With in-game.
Oh, bots are always an issue. I mean, that's the like if you think of if you really think of like the enemy in this world of sneakers, it's bots.
Sneaker bots, they're a thing, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So basically what has happened is, so I mean, here's how the scenario plays out. So it's a Saturday morning, it's a Friday morning, a Thursday morning, 9 o'clock, and whatever, Nike's going to release a sneaker, and there's probably 10,000 or 20,000 of like the really desirable ones that everybody wants. Sure. But then there's about 5 million people globally competing at the exact same time to try to get that sneaker all around the world. So how are you going to get that? Because it's not a first come first serve model. It is anymore. Now it's sort of this random like digital queue that you're waiting in. And so what has happened is that the clever people have come up with all these sneaker bots that you can basically open 20 accounts. It's called the Google 20. If you're in Google Chrome, you have 20 different accounts. You have them all open at the same time, and basically you just have these bots that are like shopping for you. And so now it's basically impossible to get any of these sneakers unless you have a bot, unless you have sort of a backdoor, like if you know somebody at the brand or whatever, or just luck. Like that's basically
you're willing
it.
To pay like a lot more on the second market or something.
Of course. And that's what most of us do, right? It's just like we just know we're not going to get it, so you just go directly to StockX and go. And so how we wanted to come up with this, we wanted to come up with a model to try to make it fair, but also that you still had to put in some work at least. It's like back in the day, if you wanted to get a pair of sneakers, like even before it was like e-commerce and stuff, like you had to do some work. You had to go to the place, you had to wait in line most of the day, but that was a social thing and it was fun. Mm-hmm. And so what we tried to do was like, how do you still make it competitive? And that's why we introduced that kind of physical activity. So, if we if you take the Aglet one, the physical one, how are you going to get that? Well, you'll be able to buy it in the game, but you'll be able to buy it like at a particular location on the map. So you would actually have to go somewhere in your city and then unlock that Aglet store to be able to buy that sneaker, right? What will likely happen is, some of the brands that we're partnering with, before they release the physical sneaker in real life, they'll release the virtual sneaker in our game. And you have to buy the virtual sneaker, and there will be a challenge of some kind. You have to take,
a bot couldn't
who
easily do.
yeah, I mean, you can spoof location, but you can't really spoof, like, at least not yet. I'm sure somebody will figure it out, but you can't really spoof your activity
Sure.
walking around. You can buy.
You can jump around, but it looks very suspicious if you do that. Right?
Yeah, well, we actually had some cheaters. So we had a lot of people that were buying shakers. So they just buy the things and the phone's shaking. So we have we differentiate between validated steps and just kind of normal steps. And validated steps are actual movement that you go from A to another location, and we can track that with on the map. And then there's like motion, which is like I could just walk up and down a bunch of flights of steps, but I'm not actually changing coordinates.
Yeah.
And so those are not validated steps. And so you could just sit there and shake, but like you're not gonna really earn a lot of steps. Sort of like those are like sats almost.
Sure.
It's like fractions of steps. So it takes a ton of shaking to be able to get it.
It's not economic to do that. You best just
right. Yeah. So the experience will be, we release first, or a brand releases first, the virtual sneaker. You get that, you wear it in the game, and you have to complete some challenges or some quests. And then like the top, let's say 100 performers in that challenge will all get guaranteed access to buy it, bot free, no stress. You just get to buy the sneaker for the first time, like ever, a stress free, like non-bot.
So kind of it's a kind of an analog to people getting up early and walking to the store and queuing up. It's like a human kind of intensive action. Like they have to kind of work
and it's cool. Like you're getting in shape. Like
yeah.
Awesome. Like our players have taken over 10 billion steps so far, collectively, and we're only on iOS.
How many calories
10 billion steps. Well, it's enough kilowatt hours of output to power the US for 2 seconds.
Nice.
So it's cool. It's a very passionate community, and people are really loving it. And like we haven't even really released the good stuff, and that's what I'm excited about.
It's exciting. I'll have to get you back on as you release these things, and so we've got plenty to talk about. And
oh, totally, dude. Like I can't wait to see what the people design, and most importantly, I can't wait to crack that 50 and get number one.
You'll crack it, but then somebody would have cracked 30.
Maybe. Oh yeah, shit. I'm gonna be practicing.
I don't think 30 is possible, but maybe they would have cracked 40. But
I saw in some of the ones that I were doing, there was somebody that had like 20 seconds on.
That was on the Zebedee Speedway. That's a lot shorter track.
Okay, but the Zebedee, I mean, I was getting like 35, 38. And then the
that would
one,
be
like 20.
Cal P101. I think he's he's a current champion on the tournament. He just wins every time. And
this is I think he has found some kind of portal.
Well, there are like ultra shortcuts in some of the levels, so there are little shortcuts that people risk you taking. They're kind of allowed, but not on all the levels though. But Mario Kart has this as well, right? You kind of jump. But anyway,
there's probably some luck too as well with the question marks of like getting a boost, getting a power up.
Yeah, actually, so on Lightning Lap we don't have power ups. So, but on the other one,
in the Bitcoin rally,
Bitcoin rallies are all power ups.
Yeah.
But I've seen the video footage of some of the players, and their racing lines are perfect.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll get there. Cool, man. Well, thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
No, it's really exciting. And just to confirm for our audience, make sure to check into MintGox this Sunday. The following MintGox, which will be at the end of March, we'll be doing the Aglet tournament, and you'll be able to race in the Aglet car. But starting tomorrow, we will be announcing on our Twitter the Aglet design competition. So definitely stay tuned to that, and excited to see what you guys come up with. Anyway, thanks for coming on. It's really exciting. Really enjoyed this. And
likewise, man. Thanks a lot.
See you later. Bye.
All right. Peace.